Well, first question, will Ethereum flip Bitcoin? At one point in time, I said no, it's impossible because Bitcoin is going to just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. At this point, I say it's definitely possible. I mean, Ethereum is only half of Bitcoin now. It's not even the third. Before it was like 1/4, 1/3. Now it's half. So can I continue to gain on Bitcoin? Sure. I think that's very, very possible. There was a whole list of hedge funds and their performances that came out. Surprisingly, vast majority of hedge funds did not even outperform the S&P 500. In fact, they were way lower than S&P 500. And most actually vastly underperformed, of course, compared to Bitcoin. So had you just bought Bitcoin, your performance would have been better than almost 99% of hedge funds out there.
Why do you believe in crypto so much? What is in it that somehow it clicked for you, that when you studied it, you knew about it, that you knew that this is something that's worth not just investing in, but also devoting pieces of your life for?
Right now, my thesis has changed from before.
Okay.
And most people will not view it this way until they really, really understand. Most people getting in, they see Bitcoin just as any investment out there, just like any stocks, just like any equities, bonds, ETFs. It's just a way to make money. And I would argue vast majority, 90+% of people coming into Bitcoin, that's all they really care about. They don't really care about blockchain or what it stands for. They don't care that it's scarce, it's non-sovereign, transparent, all this, the inherent things to Bitcoin. They don't care about any of that, right? But my thesis has changed because I came in the same way. And now I look at it, since I'm paying so much attention to what's going on a macro scale, what's going on with the US, what's going on with other countries around the world, it really makes me believe that Bitcoin is the way. Because you look at, I'm just going to use US for example, you look at, Jerome Powell, what he's doing with rates right now, trying to curb inflation. Well, why did inflation happen? Well, if you look at the US Treasury printing out about $4 trillion, out of thin air, that probably had something to do with inflation, right? So these are things that most people don't realize because they don't pay attention. But if you pay attention, I mean, just think about it. If you had 10 pencils and now 4 pencils were added to the 10, well, now you have 14 pencils. Well, that means every pencil, the value went down, right? Because now there's 14 pencils instead of 10 pencils. So, I mean, that's a really, that's a small example for people to kind of think about, because whatever supply that we had in terms of money for at least the US, the USD just went up by 40% within a couple of years. Well, that means everything they value by 40%. And the government could do that endlessly. The US Treasury could do that based on what the Fed, what the current administration, and Congress, if they want to increase more, they want to print more, they can do so. There's no limitations. And the people that are hurt by it are the people that don't invest, and they have this cash with them, and they see the cash basically getting less and less valuable every year. And we have seen other countries that suffer way worse with hyperinflation, and their fiat is basically toilet paper. Like, it's just completely worthless, right? So this kind of stuff really is hammering in my head, about why Bitcoin is so important, because it is scarce and governments can't control it. It's not something that you can apply monetary policy to. You can't apply a quantitative easing or tightening to Bitcoin. It's following a code, and there's a set supply, right? So the scarcity aspect and the fact that no country or entity controls it, that's major for me, right? And there are other things I'm not even mentioning about, taking basically control of your own money, being your own bank, so that no one can tell you if you can spend your money, no one will question you if you can receive large amounts of money or send large amounts of money. Because if you go to a bank You try to do that, they're going to question you. Every single little thing, they're going to ask you, where does money come from? Or who are you sending it to? Why do you need to send this, right? All this stuff. And a lot of times they will freeze it. They will stop the transactions. And with Bitcoin, they can't do that because no one controls it. And the network is decentralized, spread out across the world. So there's other benefits like that too. If you're a citizen in Africa, or you're a citizen in a developing country where you don't even have a bank account, the closest bank is 100 miles away from you, right? Downloading a wallet into your phone and being able to be your own bank and be able to process transactions and receive money and send money anytime, anywhere, instantly, basically, that's powerful. So for me, my thesis has changed after really understanding and learning these things. But I recognize for most people, they don't really know or care. But that's what I help people, try to make people understand with my show.
Yep, totally believe in that. That especially for people who are unbanked, or at least people who don't have the ability to be able to do bank-like transactions. Crypto is something that's game changing in general. But I wanna ask this, because since crypto is something that's very new, there are a lot of things that we really haven't explored yet or touched yet. And I want to ask this two things, because I try to play devil's advocate if there would be some bad scenarios that could possibly happen. And one of the things that I'm thinking of is Bitcoin. It's decentralized. You can't shut it down, but they can shut down the off ramps back to fiat. Do you think that there would be a scenario that, okay, people start believing in Bitcoin, they start stacking, then value is good. However, there would be a certain snapshot later on that governments or regulations would happen that you can't really take it out. What would be your solution for that? That all the value that you stored in Bitcoin, you still get to use it? Or do you think that's actually possible?
I think you and most people are still thinking that the end goal is to cash out Bitcoin. But the end goal is not to cash out Bitcoin. The end goal is to cash out of cash into Bitcoin. There's no doubt that the growing adoption of Bitcoin has caused many merchants to accept Bitcoin. You could get a Bitcoin debit card, right? You could spend your crypto directly using Visa and MasterCard if you wanted to. But with the growth of Lightning Network, with the growth of just Bitcoin's network, growth of adoption in the future, you don't need to cash out. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to hold everything in Bitcoin, and you'll be able to spend it worldwide without worrying about cash, because ultimately Bitcoin could one day become a global reserve currency, replace the USD, right? And then everyone is going to want to cash to Bitcoin, not cash to fiat. So that's how I see it. We're not there yet. Obviously, we're still very far off from there. And in the meantime, you could argue, well, yeah, maybe they could take off all the off ramps and stuff like that, but it's certainly not going to kill Bitcoin and crypto. And I do think that even if some countries are harsher to Bitcoin, there will be many countries that will be lenient to Bitcoin and embrace it. And that will just cause a population shift of people moving from one country to another if they face scrutiny, let's say, from the governments, right?
Your whole thought process and your strategy on how you select different crypto. So I actually don't know what your composition is, but how do you go about it?
It's really not that difficult, but if you're looking at, let's say, if you're trying to evaluate, because I've been in a space for so long, I know like 200-300 projects off the top of my head. So it's something that I've learned over time. But right now, more than ever, I think looking at the team, the founders of a project is very important. I know that a lot of people in the space, they like to think, well, it's okay for project leaders to be anonymous, and maybe they're young and they don't know, they're not seasoned professional. That's okay. And that's true. I mean, there are some projects that have done very well with young leaders or anonymous leaders, right? But if you want to be sure, I guess, I take that back. You can't be 100% sure. But if you want to invest in a project that you really don't know anything about, they may make some big promises. The only thing you can really look at is, well, look at a track record of the founding team, right? Have they done something similar, or have they done something very different? but they were very successful at it, right? And that's one of the things I look at when I evaluate a brand new project that I have no idea about, right? I want to look at, well, okay, is there something that gives me some reassurance that there is a chance that they could work out, right? And if I see the team is very strong, very, very strong, well, that gives me some reassurance. And also, it's not just about the team, but something else that's just really simple is just use common sense and look at whether or not they can do what they're trying to promise you, right? If they're promising you to go end world hunger, no, it's not feasible. It's not gonna work out. And there's been many projects in the past that have made big, bold claims, and you could just use your common sense. Is it really a project that can do those things? And if it's not, well, then you should stay away. And if it is a project that you think that, okay, it's in a sector that is growing, let's just say, for example, metaverse, right? It's a growing sector. They have a chance. Maybe they could disrupt something. Well, okay, then that's the second thing. You have to use some common sense and evaluate whether or not they're actually doing something that's feasible. And then other things, little things you got to pay attention to, kind of like red flag kind of things. You look at a lot of these coins, they like to have 1 million like decimal points, right? They try to, basically they all kind of copy like SHIB or Doge or early on. They try to make it very, very, very low to kind of track people thinking, well, it could go up 1,000,000%, right? That's kind of like a warning. You look at things like circulating supply versus total supply, the tokens held by the team, the vesting schedule for them, because sometimes these teams will say, this is completely decentralized, yet they hold 50% of the circulating supply. So that's a red flag. So there's other things like that you have to look at, and also just pay attention to the overall timeline, their development, how active they are with their community, stuff like that. There's a whole process there.